welcome. But we want to make sure that we're live today for everybody that wants to come, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And it's very awesome that you can come out today and listen to our broadcast. We are just going to extend like, share, and subscribe. I just want to make sure we'll be talking about that. You can also join our private VIP, your backup plan group, and get special workshops that we will be starting to present on getting your backup plan together. So if you haven't already, please join the VIP, your backup plan group on Facebook. And Instagram is your backup plan, Facebook is your backup plan, and your website is yourbackupplan.ca. And on there, it has both apps for Google Play and iTunes. And just a little note, we had an issue with the app on Google Play. It had some sort of update and it hasn't worked. So we are getting that fixed at the moment, and it should be fixed anytime very, very quickly in the next day or two. So of course, with technical stuff, there's always issues, and but we're on it and we are repairing it. So I'm glad to have that ability to do that. So thank you guys for coming out today. I'm so excited to see more and more people joining the Your Backup Plan podcasts and live broadcasts on Thursdays. Now, for anyone who hasn't listened to the podcast, I did an interview with Sabine G with Enagic. It's a water filtration company. It's a direct selling business. And we do an interview to discuss the two types of comparison of the direct selling MLM type of business versus having a self-employed occupation, a self-employed business or partnership. And it doesn't matter from what country you're from when you're listening to this broadcast, because we talk about how there's differences, and there might be a slight difference in United States or Europe, but there really isn't very much, because we're going to talk about how it affects the different types of being prepared and things that you should consider to be prepared. I can't even talk today. Be prepared. That's a hard one to say. And so, of course, with the Hurricane Laura today being very active in Texas and Louisiana, and it's heading up towards the northwest, northeast. I'm not sure what direction it's going, but it's very, very scary. And we do get tornadoes occasionally, and of course, storm surges and wildfires. We've just gone through in British Columbia, and in California, they're still struggling. So why not be prepared? I mean, we talk about this all the time, being prepared for whatever might arise. And I want you guys to really think about the different obstacles that would arise in having your own business, whether you're direct selling or whether you're self-employed. Some things, the obstacles that take us out of our business groove, our ability to be creative, our tactics of maybe working with certain clients, because when an obstacle comes in our way, we all of a sudden lose our business go, our ability to being able to produce or create revenue or all of these things. And they're all obstacles that can affect us. And we're going to talk about those today in our broadcast. And we did talk about them in the podcast. So if you haven't listened to it, please feel free. It's on the podcast for Your Backup Plan is on 6 different venues. And iTunes has it, and Spotify are the 2 biggest ones. But of course, they're on multiple different types as well. So I want to welcome everyone that's come out today to listen. And thank you for coming out. Thank you, thank you. Something that you can face in your business is something that's going to happen to you. It's unexpected that you haven't possibly prepared for. And that's why we're here today, because we want to make sure that we're going to get prepared. But how do we do that? How do we get prepared? COVID has brought up a whole other few issues. Of course, even with Hurricane Laura and the wildfires in British Columbia and California, those are issues that we can't deny. And we need to really look at those and see what can we do to be prepared. If you think nothing's going to happen to you, I'm going to come up really close. Something will. Something will. I'll say it again. Something will happen to you or someone close to you that's going to affect your business and your revenue. And it's going to be an obstacle, and we need solutions. Let's see here. We talked about so much with Sabine. And Sabine spoke about having a back office with having a MLM type of business or a direct selling type of business. We spoke about having an account. So when you're part of that type of business, they'll give you or provide you a account, which gives you a website. It gives you a back office. It tracks your revenues, tracks your leadership, tracks where you are in the realm of things. It tracks where you are with your upline as well as your downline, who you've brought into the business, what you've sold. It tracks all of that. It also tracks who do you want to give that business to in a business succession or a retirement type of fashion. So those are all things that an MLM or a direct selling marketing business can enable you to do. Whether or not you are self-employed or do this type of business, there are pros and cons to having both or one or the other. You can do that type of business as part-time or full-time business. And you really need to think about, if you're self-employed, how can you implement that same type of online protection? And that protection might look like having a website, having a accounting package that can keep track of your accounts receivables, accounts payables. You also need to look at your social media. Now, social media is a really big one right now in the news, because if something happened to you with, say, a sickness, or you were in the hospital for a while, recovering, say with COVID, for example, there's lots of people that have been in there for months, even weeks. And where does your business lie? How does that get affected with that obstacle? And that obstacle means that you need to have some sort of plan in place to have someone look after your clients, or deliveries, or manufacturing, or whatever that might look like for you. Shipping, maybe shipping products, or sewing, or art, or whatever that business is. You need to have someone who is able to step in and do what you do in a normal day-to-day kind of role, as well as make some real big decisions for you in the week. That might be for deliveries or new contacts. But one word of advice and one word of caution is, if you do choose to have someone They need to be knowledgeable in what you do. They need to, there must be some sort of protection amongst the both of you to ensure that you are not giving up your clients to someone. And then when you do come back from your recovery of whatever it is that you've had happen, that your person that you've chosen to look after your business is also not going to take your clients. So those are some cautious kind of protection things that you do need to think about. Now, with social media, Sabine talked about using social media in her business. That's not normally given to a direct selling type of role with the account that you have with the back office. So in both situations, whether you're self-employed or whether you're part of direct selling, you have to implement social media to address your marketing. And those types of problems arise when you have social media accounts, but no one knows how to access them. So if something did happen to you, you need to have that same person that you chose to work through your business. You need to have them also to be able to take over your social media accounts to continue, so that there's not a lag between you leaving and you returning. So if something happened to you at time of death and you weren't returning, you need to have an implementation with your family or the person that's going to arrange for your business to continue. You need to decide a few things beforehand. And your social media is very, very important, because on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and we could go on and on with all the different accounts. YouTube, example. If you passed away, you actually need a court order. Your family needs a court order to access your account. So you can imagine the cost and the time to do that. So we need to know that you have both, if you are just sick and returning, that looked after, as well as what do you want done with your website and your social media in your business world. Do you want it to continue? Do you want to give it to someone? Do you want to allow someone access to add to it? Do you want them to close it? Those are all pre-decisions that you need to make, because it's not fair to leave your family to make those choices when you really need to make a plan in place. The other types of things that we talked about was family meetings. And I think you might have heard some of these family meetings on some TV shows in the past. And those are those people that are close to you, whether friends or family, and whether your parents or your brother, your sister, your kids are all going to have a huge impact on your business if you don't have that under control. And what does that mean? That means that if you need to have a family meeting, whether who you decide to pick to use, but look at the scenario that if something happened to your parents, how would that impact your time, energy, and level of commitment to your business? So just because it doesn't happen to you personally doesn't mean that it's not going to impact your business, because all the energy, all the time that it takes to look for paperwork, to look for their will, to, it could be days, it could be hours, and it could be weeks, and it could be months. So we really need to look at that role of how it could affect your business, having a friend or a family member have something occur with them also. So we discussed that. And sometimes with parents, it's very difficult because a lot of parents are very secretive. And that's okay. But I've had a client or two that have actually called me when their parent is very, very sick and it doesn't look good, like it be a day or two before something happens. And it creates a lot of sorrow, it causes grief, and it causes a lot of other issues with your energy. And those types of things are when my client was calling me crying. It's very tragic because they've waited too long to discuss where their stuff is for the person who is very sick and dying. My client's sitting there and she says, well, my mom says nothing's going to happen to her, so she doesn't need to tell me. But I always say, please, please, if you take anything from today, have a family meeting and discuss what do the parents want? What kinds of things do they have? Where are their accounts? Please write it down somewhere. Please, purchase my app perhaps. Get organized, have a plan, because there's so much unclaimed money that is in Canada, UK, United States, unclaimed money as well as unclaimed property. So how do we get around that? How do we know what someone might have had? I have a great podcast next week that discusses just that, not being able to find documents, not being able to find things, not being able to find the will, not being able to put together the executor stuff, because the executor is only as good as the person who's organized it in the end. So many people have bank accounts that aren't just from one bank, but they have multiple bank accounts, multiple investments in different locations or properties. Or what if you didn't know what that person has? And that was the case with my client. And her mom is passing away and she's trying to find out from her mom, where is the will? Where is, the bank accounts? Where are the investments? But at that time, it's very, very difficult to get out of anyone because, let's face it, people don't want to think that they're dying. And there's no need to do it because I'm not dying, right? So let's not wait until the last minute. Let's have an idea of what you might need to do before it happens. And that way you can be better prepared. You don't spend so much energy, so much emotion, and so much time away from your business to allow your things to come together when something does occur. Now, a lot of times people say they're very organized. They have everything under control, but do they? So on my website, there is a list of things that you can do to get better prepared. There are things that you can put together that would be better than nothing. Of course, in the app takes care of so many different issues. It looks at what if you had a wildfire, you evacuated in the 5 minutes time frame, and you took a few things out of your home, but it wasn't everything. So those are the kinds of things that we talk about. I think there's some noise now. Somebody's cutting their grass. So I hope everyone can hear me okay. I'm very sorry. So some of the things that we talk about are finding out what it is that we need. And in the app, it looks after not just if you're sick, not if you're dying, not any of those things. Those are important. But it also takes care of losing something in a fire or a flood, or taking photos of your furniture, perhaps you have special artwork or things that you collect. Those are things for insurance purposes are needed, and photographs are the best, as well as receipts. And this type of app will allow you to upload all of those types of things. So if something happened, you have a record, because perhaps you want to give that special artwork to a special person in your family, so that you can also list in the app. So as you can see, these things are available to you, but we don't think about them. We don't think about them until something's happened to someone we love or know or trust. And then we're all like, oh, that's tough. That's hard to do. So we don't want to be in that whirlwind of not knowing what to do and having the ability to do it in the app. So other things that we talked about was the business accounts. Now, in the business, if you have or are part of a direct selling marketing company, you also need to record how to access your account. So, and you need to be able to will it to someone. So that could be a family member or a spouse or a partner or a business partner, but you need to have that recorded. And in your self-employed business, it's very much similar, because you also need to record that somewhere. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to continue. We have clients that try to get the computers brought in to someone who can look at the computer and figure out what the passwords are or how to get into the accounts. We don't need to do that if you've got that recorded. If you've got your accounts payables and your accounts receivable for people, what you owe, what you have out there that's due to you from invoices, from work you've already done or services that you've done. So those types of things, of course, we need to record as well in your business, whereas in direct selling, you don't have those assets. You don't have the car in your business. You could set up a separate account with Revenue Canada, or it could be IRS in the United States, and I'm not sure, I'm sorry for what it is in England. But with income tax purposes, you really need to be able to use that to your benefit and write off all of those things, but that would have to be in a separate account for direct sales, because direct sales don't keep track of that in the behind the scenes type of business. Now, when you're self-employed, you can keep track of those things. You could have a bookkeeper, you could have an accountant, but those types of things also need to be planned for, or in a book of assets, because there might be property, there might be rent on a warehouse building, there might be vehicles or trucks, there might be boats. And those are usually always in the name of the owner and not necessarily a corporation. So if they're in a corporation, then any of the shareholders could access those types of things and look after them. But in your case, when you're self-employed, you don't have that luxury. So your spouse or partner would have to be able to access them. And in a lot of times when you haven't planned, it is a huge headache, takes days, sometimes weeks and months to do. I'm sorry for the noise. Why do we have that just when we're recording? I hope everyone can hear me okay. Can I get a like or a heads up for that you can hear me okay? Anybody wave? Anybody let me know? Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. I would like to also talk about, I'm going to pause for 1 second. So I hope that sound isn't so loud now. So with your business accounts, you have the social media accounts. We don't know if we had to go into your house, if they are in a filing cabinet, if they're in a kitchen drawer, if they're in a closet somewhere, or stashed on top of the garbage can. Honestly, we don't know where your paperwork is. So what we do want is a list of where these things are, and that includes your will. So please, everyone who's listening, if you haven't gotten a will yet, please do. A power of attorney, a will, and a living will is also beneficial. But it's useless if you do have it, but no one knows that you have it. So that's not really the best way of doing things either. So these are the types of things that I bring up, that if you have a will, that's what you could put in your app, that you have a will and where is it located. You don't need to share what's in it. You don't need to share the descriptions of what you've chosen to do or not done, or that you've put someone on it. You don't need to share that. What you do need to share is where it is, because then your family, friends, or loved one can access it when they need to. Because there's nothing worse than when someone passes away or gets very sick and you can't find any of their information. So let's have a little bit of planning and protection here for those that, for us, as well as those that we love. So the thing about working with a team or by yourself is that if you work with a team, you can give those duties of what you need them to do for you and what they need to do, what they want you to do for them. So it goes both ways, and it works really nicely when you can create a team like that and have a plan put in place. And we are going, actually, now we have a train. So we're going to talk about one of those in a workshop, how to create your own team and be able to create a team so that you have something in case something happens to, say, the one of two of you, or if you create a team of 4, whatever that might look like for you. But that team will then be able to look after you, and you'll be able to look after them. And it works as a nice, like a partnership as well when you're self-employed. So those are the types of things that I like to talk about. The other thing I talked about also with pre-planning for someone, when you're having a family meeting with a family member, or it could be a close friend, is that I want you to all remember that something is going to happen to each and every one of us. We just don't know when. So I want you to take a second and really think about when you could have a family meeting with that person or persons, and what you would say. And I always like to have the main part of the meeting around 2 things, and that is, what if? What do they want it to look like? And if there has been some sort of dysfunction in the family unit amongst the whole family, and it might be one brother or one sister or one aunt or one uncle that might be in the family unit but is not close. I want you to ask everyone for the family meeting the what if question, but also, do you want what's going on at the moment with everyone? Say there's 10 people involved, or 5, it doesn't matter. Do you want that to continue with people not speaking or not getting along before something occurs? Do you want that to also continue after? Or do you want to make a change? Do you want it to be different? Do you want to make things right? And that's a very good topic, because we really need to think about those things. do we want to fix that problem? Because if it's a problem before you pass away, it's going to be a bigger problem after, because nothing is usually very friendly after the fact. So I'd like you to consider those two facts. What if, and what would they want it to look like? Do they want that to continue, or would they like to make that change and fix something? Do they want it to look different? So those types of things we discussed, and I hope that, every single time I do a video, that someone can take one thing away, one tip. And I'm doomed out here today with our live broadcast between the lawnmowers and the cutters and the train. I don't know. So some of the things that you need to think about is property involved in the business, and who would take over that property? Who would take over that business? Would you close it? Would you pass it to someone? Usually the only planning that ever gets done is in the business succession planning. That's when you're thinking of retiring in some shape or form, and you decide to retire in 2 years, so you start a plan. But I want you to start a plan now. I want you to start thinking about these things before they happen. Because not only for retirement, but sickness, fire, disaster, natural disaster, tragedy, car accident, sickness, disease, whatever, we know something's going to happen. So let's get a plan together. Let's get to know where our stuff is, because we know in our head where it is. If someone said, "Where's your safety deposit box?" you could say, "Well, it's at the Bank of Montreal on Main Street." But no one else knows that. So you can imagine that if you don't have these things listed in something, that the person trying to look after you after, or looking after your stuff after you pass away, either one, makes it very difficult to do that. Because not only is it difficult, but we can't find it if it was there. So if you did have a will and you thought that was all you have to do, it's not. In our digital world today, if you're not online, you need to be. So that brings up a whole bunch of other issues around being online. You need a website. You need to either decide what you're going to do with that website. If you got sick or passed away, you need to decide what you want to do with your social media accounts. Do you want to create a team in case something happens to you, or someone close to you that you could make a team up? Say a bunch of chiropractors get together, or physiotherapists, or whatever that might look like, but someone who can replace you for a month or 2 or 3 or 6 if something happened, and you do the same for them. So I hope that this has helped, because I could talk about it for a few hours, and I wouldn't want to bore anybody with that. So I just want to touch each and every one of you with what you can do with yourself to make things better, and what you can do to help those around you, around those that you love, because they are going to impact you if something happens to them. We need to have a plan, and we need to think about these things, because one type of business structure is very different than the other business structure. So we need to consider which one is better in our favor, what do I need to do to be prepared in that instance of that type of business structure, and what can I do to help those that might have to come in and pay the bills, or know where my accounts are to pay the bills, or be able to access my accounts payables or accounts receivables. We need to know where that stuff is. And I just want to let everyone know, this is why I created your backup plan and the app, because my passion around having people be better prepared and not feeling the big hit so much when something does happen. I can't stop anyone from feeling the pain. I can't help anyone stop from crying and being very emotional and going through grief. But I can help with each and every one of you to be better prepared so that it's not so stressful. You know, finances are stressful. And when you don't know something, or you know what it's like when you can't find something and you're the one who put it somewhere and you can't even think of where that is, that's stressful. And if that's what you have to do, and you know that there's a time limit, and you know that you need to get this done quickly, it becomes overwhelming. It becomes frustrating. It becomes emotional, and it becomes added to what you're already dealing with. So if I can eliminate that little bit, I've done my job. And I just want everyone to be better prepared and really consider what can they do to add each month to their backup plan. Because when you're running a business, it's even more than your own personal stuff that you have. You know, you might have a car personally, but you might have a car or a truck for your job, for your business. So it's just added extra stuff to your already complicated family and business dynamics when something does occur. So if we can touch a few of those things, and we're going to be having workshops, and they're going to be different topics. When you become a member, you can access that, and you can look in the archives for workshops that we're going to have every week on different topics. And for example, the one that we talked about in this live broadcast, again, for anyone who's joining, is direct selling business versus a self-employment business. And also, we did a podcast on Tuesday. If you haven't heard it, it's with Enagic Water filtration systems. And she talked about her own story and how things were a bit different in the direct selling business aspect versus the self-employed job. And we also touched on having family meetings and how it also could affect your own revenue in your business if you're not on top of that and not thinking about the whole picture instead of just a little portion, which is just yourself. But we should also be considering those that are close to us, because they also are going to impact our business. So we're on podcasts through 6 different types. iTunes, Spotify are the 2 biggest ones. And we have a special group, a VIP, your backup plan on Facebook, which would enable you to join and get onto the different workshops that we will be holding each and every week. So I'm so looking forward to next week. We're talking about cleaning up the mess. Yes, there is a mess 6 years later. So if any of this resonates with you, if any of this touches you, please make a comment and share. And also look us up, like, share, and subscribe to our channel on the podcast, on YouTube, on Instagram and Facebook, and LinkedIn. So please, I thank you again for attending, listening, And I thank you throughout all of this noise, the lawnmowers, and the only thing that we haven't added to this sound background is a vacuum. So I want to thank everyone for listening to our live broadcast this week on direct selling versus self-employment. And I look forward to seeing you again next week, next Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. We will be talking about cleaning up the mess. And if you don't think there is a mess, there is. And I'll have a lot more stories for you. So I'll see you again next week, next Thursday. Watch on Instagram. We're also going to be doing a reading every day on Instagram on my page, Your Backup Plan. We will be talking about just an inspirational type of thing. And yeah, I'm so looking forward to helping everybody. I'm so looking forward to hearing some good stories instead of other stories. So signing off, again, my name is Tina Olexa, and I'm the creator and developer of Your Backup Plan app. It's on iTunes and Google Play, and the website is yourbackupPlan.ca, and on Facebook, Instagram, and podcasts everywhere. So I thank you again for attending and listening. And if there's anything that you would like to see a topic on, please comment below and share and like. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you. Have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Stay safe.